You have 30 seconds to decide whether the man sitting across from you is going to leave this restaurant alive. His name is Marco, and 23 years ago, he was the closest thing you had to a brother. He saved your life twice, went to prison without giving you up, and trusted you to protect his family. You failed him on the last one. Now someone inside your organization is talking to the government, and every piece of evidence points toward Marco. There's a pistol beneath your jacket. Marco keeps looking toward the restaurant door, and that's when you realize something that makes your hand stop moving. Maybe Marco came here to kill you first. 23 years earlier, nobody in the city knew your name. You were 20 years old, earning barely enough to help your mother keep the lights on. Your father had been gone for years, which left you, your mother, and your 14-year-old brother Daniel. Then one Friday afternoon, your boss tells you he only needs you 3 days a week. You do the math twice. After rent, your family will have $8 left for the week. That's when Marco knocks on your window. You've known Marco since you were 9, and Marco has never arrived with a good idea. Tonight's bad idea pays $80. All you have to do is carry a sealed envelope 6 blocks and give it to a man inside a restaurant. You ask Marco what's inside. Marco smiles. If they wanted us to know, they'd pay us less. You should probably walk home. Instead, you open the restaurant door. A waiter doesn't take the envelope. He takes you through the kitchen and into a room in the back. 4 men are playing cards. The oldest one doesn't even look up when you enter. That's Salvatore. You don't know it yet, but he'll change your entire life. He takes the envelope, gives you $80, and tells you to come back next Thursday. That night, your mother opens the refrigerator and finds it full for the first time in months. That's how this life gets you. It doesn't arrive looking like crime. It arrives looking like groceries. Thursday becomes another delivery. Then another. Soon Salvatore starts giving you collections. One afternoon, a shopkeeper owes Salvatore $600 he doesn't have. Marco wants to smash the man's display case until he finds the money. Then you notice 2 children's photographs taped beside the register. You give the shopkeeper 3 days. Marco spends the entire walk home telling you Salvatore is going to break both your legs. 3 days later, the shopkeeper pays all $600. When you bring it back, Salvatore asks why you didn't threaten him. You tell him, a man who hates you pays once. A man who trusts you keeps paying. For the first time, Salvatore smiles at you. That's the day he starts remembering your name. For the next year, Salvatore gives you better jobs, and for the first time in your life, money stops disappearing immediately. Your mother thinks the grocery store finally gave you more hours. You never correct her. And then you meet Elena, who has absolutely no idea what you actually do for a living. For a few months, your life almost feels normal. Marco fixes that. He owes $1,800 after gambling with money that belonged to Vittorio. You've never met Vittorio, but you've heard enough to know Marco won't get a payment extension. Marco has 48 hours. You have $600. That's when you remember the furniture warehouse where you sometimes make collections keeps its weekend cash in the office safe. This time, Marco doesn't suggest the crime. You do. At 2 in the morning, you climb through a warehouse window and immediately cut your hand on the glass. Marco finds the office. You find the safe. For 30 seconds, the plan actually works. Then the lights come on. The night watchman is standing 20 feet away with one hand already reaching for his radio. Marco pulls the gun you didn't know he brought. You grab his arm. The gun fires. When your ears stop ringing, the watchman is lying on the floor. You take 1 step toward him. Marco grabs you. Run. You leave the money scattered across the office floor and run into the night with nothing. By morning, police are knocking on doors 3 streets from your apartment. A witness saw 2 young men running. Another remembers Marco's car. You spend 2 nights waiting to hear footsteps outside your bedroom. On the 3rd morning, the police announce they no longer have a reliable witness. Marco celebrates. You don't. That afternoon, Salvatore takes you somewhere you've never been before. Vittorio is eating peaches in his garden when you finally meet the man who just bought your freedom. He doesn't mention the warehouse, the watchman, or the witness who suddenly forgot your faces. He asks how your mother is doing. That's when you understand the conversation isn't about gratitude. Vittorio saved your life. Now he intends to collect on it. At 24, you stop carrying envelopes and start deciding who receives them. Marco discovers he's very good at making people afraid of him. You discover fear works better when people know you don't need to use it. Salvatore teaches you which policemen take money, which judges take favors, and which men take neither. Those last men, he tells you, are usually the ones worth remembering. By 27, the grocery store apron has become a tailored suit. Your mother gets a house with a garden and never asks exactly where the money came from. Elena gets a ring, although by now she has stopped believing you work in wholesale produce. Daniel gets into university without taking $1 from you. You keep saying you're doing this for us, Daniel tells you. Nobody asked you to. 2 months later, Marco gets arrested carrying enough evidence to bury half your crew. Vittorio asks you one question. Will he talk? You know what happens if you say yes. No. Marco refuses every deal he's offered and takes 8 years instead. Before they take him away, he makes you promise to look after his wife and son. You promise. For the first 3 years, you keep that promise. Then your responsibilities grow, Elena gets pregnant, and Marco's family becomes another task you keep postponing. By year 5, Marco's wife has stopped calling you. By year 6, she and the boy are gone. You tell yourself you'll explain everything when Marco gets out. You never write that part in your letters. Salvatore is the first person who notices you've started growing comfortable with power. Then one afternoon, he asks you to drive him to the hospital. The cancer is already everywhere. During your last visit, he tells you, the dangerous man isn't the one who hates you. It's the man who thinks you owe him. Salvatore dies the following morning. A week later, Salvatore's chair at Vittorio's table is empty. Vittorio tells you to sit in it. Years ago, you weren't important enough to enter this room unless you were carrying an envelope. Now men twice your age wait for you to speak before they do. Then, after 8 years, a prison gate opens. You're waiting outside in a car worth more than the apartment where the two of you grew up. For 1 second, neither of you knows what to do. Then Marco laughs and hugs you. He asks when he can see his son. You keep your eyes on the road for 3 seconds too long. That's all it takes. He doesn't shout when you tell him. He doesn't threaten you either. He just becomes quiet. And somehow, that feels considerably worse. Vittorio is 71 when federal agents finally come through his front door. Nobody panics at first. Vittorio has survived investigations before. Then Salvatore's old warning comes back to you. The dangerous man isn't the one who hates you. It's the man who thinks you owe him. 2 days later, you learn Vittorio is negotiating with prosecutors. One of the names he can give them is yours. Vittorio believes he saved you when you were 20. In his mind, your entire life still belongs to him. Vittorio never reaches the courthouse. The next morning, his chair is empty too. Everyone looks at you. You sit down. At 43, you finally have everything 20-year-old you thought money could fix. There are guards outside your house, men waiting for your decisions, and enough money that you stopped counting it years ago. Your mother is gone. Salvatore is gone. Daniel hasn't spoken to you in years. And Elena now sleeps in another room. Then one shipment disappears, one man gets arrested, and the police somehow know about a meeting only 5 people attended. Somebody is talking. The evidence points toward Marco. And Marco has a reason to hate you. That night, a message arrives. Marco wants to meet at the old restaurant after closing. Which brings you back to the man sitting across from you. Marco looks toward the door again. Your hand moves toward the pistol beneath your jacket. Then Marco says, "You think it was me." You don't answer. Marco slowly reaches inside his coat. But instead of a gun, he places a folded document on the table. There is an informant. It just isn't Marco. The name on the page is Daniel. Years ago, you quietly put businesses in your brother's name so nobody could trace them back to you. Now federal investigators have used those same businesses to drag Daniel into the life he spent years avoiding. Marco could have handed them everything he knows about you. Instead, he brought the file here. You ask him why. Marco says, 23 years ago, you paid a debt that wasn't yours. I figured we're even. Marco walks out. Nobody fires a shot. For the first time in years, nobody is telling you what to do next. You can run, kill Daniel, start another war, or finally admit that every choice you made to protect your family eventually put them in danger. Outside the grocery store, a young worker is unloading crates exactly like you were at 20. You spent 23 years trying to make sure you would never be that powerless again. The next morning, Elena wakes up and finds your side of the bed empty. Your watch, your phone, and the keys to the house are sitting on the nightstand. Across town, you walk into a federal building by yourself. Nobody drags you inside. Nobody puts a gun to your back. This one is your decision. 7 years later, Daniel walks into a prison visiting room. You haven't spoken since the day you turned yourself in. For a while, neither of you knows how to begin. Then you ask, "How are the kids?" Daniel looks at you for a long time before answering. You spent 23 years becoming the man everyone in the neighborhood feared. It took losing almost everything to understand that fear was never the same thing as respect. And across the city, the old restaurant is still open. A young waiter clears the table where you and Marco once decided whether one of you would live or die. Life simply continued without you.